Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. I read an interview once of a couple who had been married for many years and had formed a large family with many children, a beautiful family. And at one point, the interviewer asked the wife, "Do you have any advice for newly married couples?" And she responded, "Yes, I would tell newly married couples to never stop working on making your marriage better and stronger with each passing day, each passing year. Marriage requires total self giving, but sometimes it takes time and effort, more time and effort than you think, to discover the best ways to give oneself more generously to one's spouse. These ways may change over time, and as the children grow older, it should be a daily concern to find ways to give yourself generously to your spouse." And then she continues, "After we had been married about 10 years, my husband and I took a marriage class called Marital Love. Through it, we met other couples who were also committed to building strong marriages. One couple taught us about a concept that illustrates what I mean by working on your marriage daily. They called it making a DTL, or a decision to love the other person each day and in little ways. We don't fall in love without our will and our intellect. We choose to love a person, and we can renew this decision again each day by choosing to do small acts of service for the other person. That's a DTL. For example, if the trash needs to be taken out, a husband can make a DTL, a decision to love, by taking out the trash. His wife could make a DTL and fix the shower head without asking her husband to do it, etc., etc. Jesus, today we celebrate the feast of the Holy Family, your family, which is the model for all Christian families up and down the ages. And we look at the family that you formed with Mary and Joseph, and we marvel at the fact that you, the very Son of God, that you have wanted to live this aspect of our humanity. You, God, have wanted to live this aspect of our life, of our human life, the fact that each one of us is born into a family and called to sanctify the home, the love between spouses, between parents and children, between siblings, etc. And those DTLs, those decisions to love, they're like the glue that keep a family together. A family is healthy when the love for each other is constantly renewed in small or big acts of service, of self-denial for the sake of the other, those conscientious decisions to love, DTLs. Conversely, the family suffers and can deteriorate and even fall apart when that love is lacking, when we neglect each other or we live indifferently to one another's sufferings. It's a little bit like a healthy plant. If it is actively cared for day in and day out with sun and water and fertilizer and all the rest, if it's actively cared for, that plant will flourish. But if it's neglected or abandoned, it withers and dies. Today's psalm for the feast day of the Holy Family describes the life of the blessed man or woman. It says, "Blessed are those who fear the Lord and walk in his ways." And then it describes the healthy family in the following way. Very beautiful, from the Old Testament, from the Psalms. "Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine in the recesses of your home, your children like olive plants around your table." Jesus, in these 10 minutes of prayer, we ask you now to protect our families, sanctify our families. Each of us can consider our own family right now, the house that each of us has formed, whether in marriage or in celibacy. How is our household? How is our family life going with those that we live with and care for? Is it a thriving olive plant, a fruitful vine, or is it neglected and weak and withering? All through Christmas, we're looking at your family, Jesus, and the great marvel of those figures in the creche that each of us has in our home. We marvel at those figures of the baby Jesus with his mother Mary and the holy patriarch Saint Joseph, the Holy Family. And today's gospel highlights especially the role that Joseph plays as the father of this family. He is a model for all fathers, for all families, because he consistently makes DTLs, decisions to love, by being with Mary and Jesus, by protecting them, by caring for them, both in big ways and small ways. And the gospel points out to two big ways in which he lives these DTLs. When the Magi had departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Rise, take the child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I tell you. Herod is going to search for the child to destroy him." Joseph rose and took the child and his mother by night and departed for Egypt. And he stayed there until the death of Herod. And then the second DTL. When Herod had died, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Rise, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead." He rose, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. Now, note that in both instances, the gospel describes how Joseph got up right away. Right? As soon as he hears the angel's message, he immediately gets up. He acts. He takes the decision into his hands and he moves, despite the hardship that this would have entailed for him. Of course, the news of Herod hunting down his child was a surprise. It was a shock. And he has to flee to Egypt without any resources, no contacts there. He probably had to find a new job. He certainly had to find housing, etc., etc., etc. All sorts of unknowns and risks that he had to take. And the same goes for the return back to Israel. Maybe they had finally settled in Egypt. They were probably there for at least 3 years. And it would have been hard to pick up again and move his family. And with the worry of how to ensure the child's safety with a new king. But he doesn't hesitate. Joseph does not hesitate. In both cases, he makes a firm DTL, a decision to love. Jesus, help us to reflect on our own situation in our own family. Think of our own life. And sometimes we know that there are hard asks that we can encounter in our family life. I don't know, even something as simple as getting up to clear the table at the end of the meal. Are we prompt in making that DTL, that decision to love, to serve our families, or do we resist? Are we kind of the last one to move because we're thinking more about our own comfort? St. Josemaria, the founder of Opus Dei, he spoke about the need to work at our family life day in and day out. We have to work on our marriage. We have to work on our parenting, on caring for one another. He says, if a marriage is to preserve its initial charm and beauty, both husband and wife should try to renew their love day after day, and that is done through sacrifice, with smiles, and also with ingenuity, with creativity. Do we have this ingenuity? Do we have this creativity, this willingness to make DTLs that surprise our loved ones? And Christmas is a great time to kickstart those efforts in living family life with great affection, with true devotion to our loved ones. Let's brush off the dust if we have grown a little lazy and selfish, or if we've isolated ourselves from our family in any way. Begin again. Rededicate yourself to your spouse, to your kids, to your parents, to your siblings. And you, Jesus, you'll show us how to do this. It's enough that we observe the life of the Holy Family and place ourselves under the protection of you, Jesus, of Saint Joseph, and of our Blessed Mother, Holy Mary. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.